You're listening to I'm Telling You. You're listening to I'm Telling You.
Hey fam, welcome back to another episode of I'm Telling You.
I'm telling you, man.
That was pretty good. I like that one. That was pretty dope. This is I'm Telling You, Philly D.
Mr. Gemini.
Cookie Cracker Fact Check of the City.
Yeah, and if you want to reach out to us, you can hit us up at ITY at directionsinmusic.org
Or separately at GEMINI at directionsinmusic.org or Philly D, PHILLYD.
Yeah, I like how you spelled yours out but didn't say it. It was like GEMINI. Gemini at directionsinmusic.org. Yeah, you can hit us up separately or together. But yeah, if you're a first-time listener, this is a 30-year friendship of you and I trying to not suck at stuff and be good. I don't know, and have conversations while doing it.
Just talking, man, just communicating, because this is how we work things out. This is like, friends get together. This is what you do. Like, I mean, and sometimes it never goes anywhere. Like, I mean, as far as it goes places, but like nobody else gets to hear usually.
It's tree
like
of
these
trust.
Types of conversations.
Yeah, safe circle.
We are inviting you into, and thank you so much for listening. But this is something I like to joke around. This is something that was happening anyway.
Yeah, I think the thing we always say is whether the mics are on or not, we're going to have this conversation, kind of a thing.
That's what I like to say. Like what I try to get to keep it original is that feeling of like fly on the wall, like. You're privy to a conversation that, not that it's like super hush hush or secret or anything. It's just,
I know you're not being like pervy about it and stalking or something.
No, and there's no creepy angle. But I'm just saying that it's just two old friends. It's just like kind of like you say, chopping it up. I don't know how else to put it, but
I like the compliment that we get a lot
because we get deep, but we try to keep it silly and light at the same time. And it's a really weird,
Yeah, I like the compliment where a lot of people say as they're listening to us, they're like, I feel like I'm in that conversation. And
that's what I want.
They almost answer us, even though it's like, they're like, they can't hear us. Yeah, I definitely.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, about what.
Our one dude Vic said that.
Yeah, what Vic was saying that.
But see, that's the thing is we've always said that we feel as though that
he found himself like actually audibly correcting us, and then he realized like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not the only one. Yeah, like that's why like the whole fly on the wall thing, as you said, is very much.
Yeah, you got me.
Not in a pervy way. You're just you're a part of that conversation.
No, but I would
it's like
love
almost
that.
Eavesdropping without really like.
And I'm not even joking around when I say like I would love for people to like call us up and correct us in an angry manner.
Because
it's like, well, I mean, it's obvious that you're paying attention and you're a part of the conversation. Yeah. And I love that because we never, I never profess to be right 100% of the time. I don't think anybody
Lord,
can.
No.
I mean, but we're just talking from the heart, man. We're just, and whatever
plus
it is.
having the fact checker over here, it's kind of hard to,
And I don't know. I mean, if I was to break it down, like me personally, like I tend to be more on the eclectic, more on the Gnostic, more, I'm curious about the hidden things, about the ancient technologies, about the, like, that just kind of seems to be my forte. So, and you guys have been sending a lot of stuff back and forth this week that I've been like going down rabbit holes with, and it's so much fun.
Oh, you mean JD and I? Yeah. We,
so we stay on a chat all the time, and you guys were sending, you send some stuff that I mean, I've heard some of it before, but the nice thing is anytime you hear like, so we're speaking specifically of Tesla.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember this, what I sent.
And some of the rabbit holes that takes you down, and like JD was saying that I end up watching videos just because they're related to the fact that I was playing that and I just let it go and it, pulled up another, and that's the crazy thing about YouTube is that, you can easily go down a hole.
But I think that says something about us as well, because we kind of do that information wise where we are
conversationally, we do that. Yeah.
Well, because we're aware that each thing isn't a thing by itself. There's other stuff that coincides with it. And whether it goes this way, that, up, down, left, right, east, west, like it doesn't matter.
If only I could get better explaining how I get from A to Z.
Right. Well, and I think that's the thing is us just being a part of that kind of a conversation. It really does. it almost really puts us into that rabbit hole, and not in a bad way where all of a sudden we're coming out with like tinfoil hats and like conspiracy theories, but really more of like attempting to have that.
Not to say one or both of those won't happen.
Well, you're right. It's still early. It's still early. But yeah, no, we come out with it trying to have a deeper understanding, because like you said, it's not that, you know, we're trying to do it. It's just I want to know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to build these things, or, you know, I want some extra knowledge on this.
Well, I mean, and a lot of this stuff lately, like that we've been delving into, as far as like, I mean, a lot of it centralized around ancient technology. And one of my big takeaways from
I think one of our biggest like ongoing conversations have been that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of my big takeaways from one of the videos that was sent back and forth this time was
the recent ones, or
right was in relation to specifically to the pyramids being a energy producer of some sort, like
and if you remember when I sent it in there, I was like, yo, bro, I was like, this is, I think, something you're going to love, because yeah, it wasn't even just a power generator.
And it was, I believe it was Nikola Tesla who was quoted saying that he was convinced that that's exactly what the pyramids were a giant generator. And that this farce that we've been handed for so many years, that this was
it's the reverse of what we thought.
That it was a burial tomb. And like, that's where the one guy was quoted in this video saying, or was it a guy or a girl?
No, the lady was quoted as, "We never found a single.
We've never found a single tomb. We've never found a single body buried within the pyramids. Well, see, any one of them."
The bigger thing that I thought of, because not even just like the conversation that we've been having about that like resonant energy, you know, being able to harvest things, especially with the idea that there's a couple of different ports on the pyramids that align with the different solstices.
Well, they were saying, hydroelectric, but it involved a whole bunch of other stuff too.
The thing that I really enjoyed beyond the idea of energy production was there was an engineer that straight went at it, was just like, these channels with these supposed blocks that seem to be literal blockages, like they put a door in, they're just like, nope, you can't go down this tunnel.
Well, he was saying something about a block that looks like it would, with the pressure of the water buildup, would actually slide up and down this channel.
Well, that's what he was saying.
And there was harmonic resonance, and there was all kinds of other things. It wasn't just one thing.
Yeah, well, that was the thing, is it wasn't a blockage, it was a mechanical component. And, you know, mind you, made of, you know, stone, but yeah, it was a mechanical component that basically made a running bilge pump, like a small.
But this thing, like you said, this giant stone that was in place that looked like it was blocking, it wasn't. It was a float.
Yeah.
It was designed to float, move up and down, like I wouldn't
say a float. I would say it was more of a diaphragm. So it allowed for expansion, compression, you know, vacuum sense, so that you could move, and it was a self-functioning. Like, it used its own static pressure that it would build and that wasn't to keep it functioning.
What I was saying about that area used to be flooded with water on a fairly regular,
that was another basis. Thing. Yeah,
and
that was another
thing. The water would push its way up into these different channels and could actually.
Well, it wasn't even that it could.
The suggestion was made that
I think they were designed to do it.
Something happened, though, that there was maybe a short circuit, or something happened, that there was an explosion. And the one guy was saying,
correct.
It from all appearances, scientifically, when you look at this stuff,
it had like
every one of these sites had some sort of ground zero that we can mark based on the striation on the rock formations, not formations, but the
structures,
the statues, the columns and stuff that were actually melted rock. Yeah, it got so hot that it actually melted the rock. And at one point, there was a conversation about the king's chamber within the primary
it had
pyramid at the Giza.
It had like a burn mark, like an electrical burn mark.
It actually blew out the one side of the sarcophagus, as they call it. I'm doing air quotes because it's not really a sarcophagus. And we were talking about this before, that quite literally it could have been the point of exchange for a giant battery. of
Right.
sorts, or an energy cell.
Well, correct. It's just a chamber of storage of some sort. Whether it's for insulation or storage, or
Well, but there were diodes
I was
actually
just
in the
gonna
other
say
end of that.
That could have been in a sense almost a stone based structure.
So this is yet again, this is a continuation of the same conversation because we've been here before, but all these things came rushing back when I was watching that video. So
and that's why I was like, I think you're really going to enjoy this because it kind of tied in a lot of those things. And the bigger one was, I remember JD, she was looking up stuff for us on it, was finding that parallel line, that kind of, the pyramids and Tesla's tower.
The ley line.
Well, I don't think it was a ley. Well, they were both on aquifers, and yet it's not the. They used another name in the video, not ley line, because they were both under aquifers.
Well, there was. I thought it was a magnetic resonance of some sort. It was an energy. He used the word energy a lot to describe what he was talking about. But energy,
we would call it a ley line, but they were using an alternate term in that clip specifically. But
lose the video feed for a second.
She's probably looking stuff up. That's what she does.
Yeah,
but that was and that was that thing. I think they showed there was a lot of congruencies between Tesla and the pyramid as far as like his tower in Colorado and whatnot. But there was also definitely discerning components.
Yeah, and that was the thing that really that was the one thing that was my big takeaway that I never heard because, we've talked about this before. Like I've studied a lot of the stuff about Tesla. I've looked into some of this stuff. And
yeah.
I want to start reading more about it because it's just fascinating.
Well, you were the one that got me kind of turned up on
and
it. I started bringing shit to you. I was like, dude, did you hear me? You're like, I haven't gotten into
I heard that
yet.
before because they were talking about the supposed, they have a stash of documents somewhere and whether or not it's questionable whether or not it's actually been destroyed by the U.S. government and all this other stuff. But like everything was confiscated from his
hotel in New York when he died.
Well, no, but they weren't saying that. They were saying from his estate.
No.
They said the FBI held on, or they held on to it.
And that's the one thing I was surprised that they didn't mention because what I had heard was everything that was confiscated from the hotel was destroyed. Gone, destroyed.
This is where you get into like conspiracy theories with like misinformation.
If you think about it, he was now nose to nose with one of the biggest names as far as like these robber barons that came up right around the time. Well, not robber, but like, what I'm saying? You had the big coal, big steel.
Yeah, well, JP Morgan was one of them. Yeah. I think Rockefeller, as they were coming in, like all that kind of stuff. Where Carnegie, all of them.
This particular story focused on the fact that his holdings were all tied up in copper and rubber.
JP Morgan.
So the idea, JP Morgan, and the idea of having wireless electricity.
Well, the backstory before that, JP Morgan was the only one that actually funded him. So
he did fund him.
So he was doing the stuff where it was supposed to be a 90-foot tower. Then all of a sudden he was just like, screw this. Tesla was like, screw this crap, made it into a 180-foot tower.
Doubled it.
Yeah. JP Morgan then saw it as like, oh crap, he's not just trying to like test it. He's actually trying to like power the entire world with this, free floating electricity, this wireless electricity.
And if he didn't think it could happen, he wouldn't have tried so hard to shut it down.
Well, because that was the thing so JP Morgan having the rubber tree plants as well as like the copper mines and all that stuff. So basically the infrastructure that would be utilized to transfer the typical power that we're used to today. Yeah, he shut down that program because it's like, all right, cool. The one guy, he's like, I don't know, but it seems too obvious to me. And yeah, it wasn't even that he pulled back on his funding. He also like blacklisted him. He made it so that nobody wanted to deal with him.
So the theory I was kind of throwing your way too when I responded, and you remember my response because you were pretty animate when you responded back to me, but. I started
playing devil's advocate because it's like, hey, we got to think in today's construct, But
I started thinking about that, and I'm like, wow. So Elon Musk has now named this big company Tesla,
right?
So the assumption can easily be made that Tesla may be he's a big fan of this guy, and that he's probably studied everything about him, and that.
Yeah, I feel like Elon's the type that he's eccentric enough that he's definitely done some research into him.
So my question was. Do you think it would be completely out of the question? It doesn't seem like he's power hungry. when I've heard him in interviews and stuff, that's one thing that I
Elon,
really
yeah,
like
right,
about
right.
Elon is that as crazy as you think he might be, he's getting stuff done.
Yeah.
He's doing it a lot cheaper than the U.S. government does.
Yeah.
And you don't
Well, not even just government.
but that's the thing. Like every launch is not a success. We know this. Like it takes you
You
have
got
to
to crack
have
some eggs to make an omelet.
right. You have to have trial runs and stuff. But my suggestion to you was, is it possible that all this was a front in order to try and and then I'm thinking about it even more so now that I'm talking to you about it is it possible we could almost view Elon Musk as being a reincarnation of Nikola Tesla? That now he wants to come back and do it right, but he's going to keep it secretive and he's going to find a way to build one of these towers to create the energy, to create the infrastructure before anybody even knows about it and actually start testing it because people don't have energy collectors. Maybe they don't know how to harness the energy that is out there that he plans to transmit. Maybe there's a special receiver that I don't know all this technology because all this was supposedly burned. But it makes me wonder. You're talking about a guy who, he's not the smartest guy in the world, but he's one that's willing to do the work. You know what I'm saying? He's super, super smart. I'm not saying he isn't, but I'm just saying it's his ability to operate this enormous machine of people and infrastructure and ingenuity and he's at the bleeding edge of what's going on right now. And would it be totally out of the question? You're talking about a guy who's basically trying to re-engineer the V2 rocket. I mean, so the guy's no dummy.
Well, he's not the one that's doing it. He's
like
paying
our
people
friend
to do
said.
it.
This is what's considered to be lost technology these days.
Yeah, but he's not doing it. He's paying people to do it.
He's paying people to do it.
Yeah,
but
he's not the one that's sitting down drawing on the freaking.
I mean, Thomas Edison was the same way. He didn't do everything. He had a group of scientists working under him.
No, he just kind of came in and cleaned stuff up in a sense, or kept it organized. And yeah. Well, but you never truly expressed it to me as the idea of was this a false front on his part in order to do it?
Well, I was saying to secretly,
the way you
try to fund it himself.
Yeah, the way it came across to me was just hey, is he possibly going to do this? And I was like, well, it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't have a sustaining financial model for him as his company.
No, but that's the whole point.
Well, you without expressing it as the front. He's always made very intelligent.
The cars could just be a way for him to make money to keep this going.
Yeah, I get that. So he's always made very intelligent, albeit sometimes risky financial choices, which is why he's gotten to the place that he is with all of his companies. I've sat down and seen how he was folding the money as far as leveraging and hedging and just, betting against it with, and he's always definitely been very intelligent and understanding that there has to be a construct or flow of money so that the system works, almost like a large pyramid scheme in a sense. So I don't see him not doing something without revenue, not so much income. He's not trying to make profit, but there has to be some sort of financial component to it.
There's something deeper to his plan than profit. That much is apparent to me. I'm not sure exactly where he's going, but somebody who's basically willing to take a dive to the tune of close to $10,000 on every car. Now, I know that's not the situation now, but for the first couple years that Tesla was in production, it was actually losing money on every car that he sold. But that wasn't the point.
Well, in a sense, correct.
Because he wanted to get a foothold, and that's what he's really trying to do. He's trying to get a foothold, and I think.
But a lot of car companies did that.
So my suggestion to you is: would it be crazy? And let's just imagine this for a moment. Let's just imagine that Elon Musk is the reincarnation, because he is a little weird. He's a little out there, and I think Nikola Tesla could probably very much.
When did Tesla die, and when was Elon Musk born?
No, well,
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
you never
just
know.
make sure there's no overlap, I guess.
Yeah, right. But still, go ahead.
But the idea that the spirit behind Nikola Tesla may now be living on within Elon Musk, and is it that ridiculous a scenario to imagine that he'd be willing to take a loss on any money that could be gained for the idea of releasing free energy to the world? Because once we know it exists and we've seen it in action, there'll be no denying it. So all the people in power that want to continue making money, you know what I'm saying? All the rich moguls out there that want to continue making money off of us.
So I'll tell you what,
to create energy. So here's one of my big issues with, and I've been saying this for a long time, is one of my issues with the whole idea of an electric car is in order to produce the electricity to run that automobile, you're still burning coal, you're still burning oil, for the most part. I mean, everybody is not using the power of the sun to charge their car every day.
Or the power of wind or the power of waves, and I get all that.
Right. So,
yeah.
If it was possible, do you think he would be willing to take a loss on all that just to create
here's what I'm thinking
of this?
Within this mindset that you're expressing now?
78.
So there's a possibility of it.
What's this?
I mean, I'm sorry, 1943 is when Tesla passed, and then 1971 is when Elon was born.
There you go. So there's potential for this reincarnation.
He's not that much older than me. Okay.
So here's my thought on all that as you're expressing this. So like in the moment, I'm thinking with Elon, it seems he's very much driven to the idea of getting off Earth, and not so much in his time to make it 100% viable, but at least to get it so well started that maybe in his time it will get started. And so we could start to actually offload, like colonize, all that kind of stuff. So in the sense of if he could generate, because he knows, at least what we've come to find through what he's talking about, the amount of energy needed in order to have these reusable, spaceships, rockets, whatever you want to call it, to go back and forth, leave Earth with these massive payloads. The energy source or the ability to create this thrust is like the most, outrageous component.
I would have to assume that Elon realizes that rocket technology is so
here's my thing. My thought then is with all of that is, okay, cool. So if he's making this free energy, then I would assume that it's because he's attempting to utilize that. So that would be like, all right, cool. So maybe that's his real target projection for, say, like 2050 or some shit, is like now all of a sudden, instead of using these thrust rockets, is to utilize this free energy that we can literally just pull out of the air wireless wise.
I think I heard the suggestion made before too, that when you're tapping into, I don't know if it's energy from dark matter or what. I mean, if you really get into the nitty gritty of it, but the suggestion was made that the amount of energy you could pull out of a section of negative space equaling 1 square foot would power the entire East Coast of the United States for an entire month or something ridiculous like that.
Well, yeah, but that's on paper.
But I mean, the suggestion that even a small, I think it was even small. I have to look that up now. It may even be a smaller space than that. But it was a ridiculous amount of energy that you could pull from this just nothing. Basically, I mean, from our concept of what energy really is.
Right.
Maybe this planet is just rife with it, and we're sitting right on top of it, and we have no idea. I mean, it's that whole concept of being two-dimensional and not realizing what's in that.
So if you think about
and
this,
fourth and whatever dimension but beyond you,
having all of these stories of our, Earth's past where we've had so many different visitors and they're always doing the same thing, where we were basically this enslaved race that they either created, found, whatever.
Not enslaved.
Yeah, pretty much. But to get us to bring forth those different energy components. So whether it was like gold or carbon or, you know what I mean? Like whatever the precious metals are. So here we are. Like,
well, I mean, I guess some of the same people that believe that we were enslaved by an ancient super intelligent race.
Yeah, with the Anunnaki or whatever.
Extraterrestrial race.
It was stated that they made us to turn us into a usable free workforce, which is enslaving. But
I feel like that those are the same people that also believe that all the people in political power are in some way like lizard people, or it's like V from back in the day.
But so that's the thing. Like, all right, so the more and more I've been doing this whole...
I'm not going to say it's not possible, but I'm
right, but the more and more I've been doing this, research or looking into or whatever you want to call it, there seems to be a definite classification of different aliens that we already are in contact with. And yeah, some of them are like the power hungry. Some of them are very much here to like help. Some of them were like our original ancestors in a sense. So it's like, dude, there's a lot of stories out there, man. Some of them make sense. Some of them do not. But it's I want to say this.
Big heads and big eyes apparently is good though. Those guys are good.
Well, I want to say going back to our warm up conversation in the green room was, I think my biggest thing about all of this kind of stuff is just the literal fact that I'm trying to be open to it all. So I'm willing to accept it, ingest it, and then think about it. But
no, were you saying you had some kind of experiential something where you've met?
I was talking
other dimensional beings.
Well, I was talking about my one Reiki healing session. Yeah, because JD had brought up her hypnotherapy stuff and whatever else, and her experiences very much were in line with what mine seemed to have been. So we were talking about being conscious, even though you're technically not fully conscious. So it's like that lucid dreaming in between kind of a state.
Well, it's like, could you imagine being conscious without being Philly D?
Oh, very much. Because
just being consciousness, not being a person, not being a singularity.
It was very much a third person perspective where I was outside of all things, including myself, as well as being able to,
like a non-judgmental observer,
just seeing things as they were.
Yeah.
So not good, bad, up, down, left, right, but just what. I don't want to put it. Things like were
factual.
No, not even factual. Literal.
And then I realized that my left leg was entirely severed.
Well, but I want to say,
I'm like, no emotion. I want to say, like a full realization, but
no.
There was emotion.
There was definitely, and it was.
Oh, hi.
I wouldn't even say emotion. I would say energy, which could be perceived as emotion, which was very much calm, collected, united, because it wasn't just me. There was a multitude, and we all felt together, and not even just in purpose, but also in creation, in a sense. Like we all are a part of the same thing, like almost as if each of us are an individual atom and we're all a part of a larger molecule that's just another living being.
You were at
like Osmosis Jones kind of shit.
Well, you are at the plane of understanding of unity, but still being able to enjoy individuality.
Yeah, because
it was you go further than that than you just are.
Well, because it was very much like a third person perspective, even though it was from my perception. So there was times where I was outside of it all, but on a geographical, and then outside of it all from a spiritual, emotional. So, but it was, it was different parts of it. But yeah, that was interesting to say the least.
You could be right, almost viewing just like you're in your body, but still be distant. Or you could be the other way around, where you could actually be viewing yourself, but still have the emotional attachment to things that are going on.
So there was moments where I was literally back beyond all of it so that I could see it from an outside, almost like a creator position. You know what I mean? Like if you were playing like The Sims or something, and you're just like watching yourself do all these things. So very much like out of body experience, but able to embrace the entire thing that I was already a part of as an individual and witnessing, even though still feeling completely a part of a collective.
See, I was saying more like a being John Malkovich.
Okay.
Like you're still experiencing it, right, but there's a disconnection. Like you realize it's not you.
Right.
It's not the energy that is the spirit of me. It's just me, this incarnation in this body, which is
like a spirit in a vessel.
Mr. Gemini is just the vessel this time that I incorporate.
Yeah. No, that's
because it's the attachment to that the Easterners say causes suffering.
And you want
it's the attachment to this physical plane instead of just the love that we share for each other, which is, I think, what you experienced in that other plane. And that's what that's for.
So, and that was the thing is the the other entities that I felt with, but also a part of. So I saw them as individuals, but also as a part of like the collective, because we were all doing the same thing. They didn't appear as like aliens, even though they had like relative form to them. They really came more across as an actual centralized component of energy or light, like literal spirit, as if it was just a large orb in a sense.
Well, I mean, I've heard before too that and I always wonder what it's going to be like when I have an experience like that. But I've heard before too that you tend to you see these other spirits the way you're comfortable with seeing them. So if there's certain things you're drawn to, like if I have a vision dream and it's Thoth that I come in contact with.
I thought it was Thoth.
I'm not sure.
Tomato.
Thoth. It's Thoth that I come in contact with.
Are you a knock?
That's basically because that's kind of imprinted on me is what I would expect to see. You know, some people might see a pixie, some people might see an angel, some people might see, you know, a unicorn, whatever it means for you.
Right.
That it's particular to but it's not to say that, you know, it can't take on any shape. That's not really what's important. And you were even saying the same thing, that it was more like the connection that we had.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, so all right, the entities as the orb or energy of light, there was still the underlying alignment of chakras in a sense, so that I could witness the almost like input output of the energy of them, so that you have like the third eye as well as your root, and so that you would have the input output where we're used to having that as like ears, nose, mouth. Stuff
right. There's no need to touch something when you're already a part of it.
Yeah. So there was almost,
you don't need hands and feet.
It was almost like it was a part of a circuit where the chakras were more or less like, you know, resistors or diodes or components of things
machine
that would, take the energy and take the energy and, you know, insert it here, there, wherever. So that's how you would interpret, you know, or ingest information as well as output it.
I think of the chakras as like buttons that hold our physical body to the energetic plane, basically.
Well, because I mean,
they're like buttons that hold us into reality.
Yeah, we're just resonating molecules.
Because if the buttons all break off, you're gone. That's it.
Yeah.
The buttons are gone.
I get that.
You just float away.
You float by.
I'm not dying. I'm just giving up this body.
Yeah. Well, dude, I just saw a movie where they kind of touched on that, where there was one race of beings that were so enlightened to the point that they were just like, all right, cool. I know my physical form is about to be gone. I'm out of here. And they just allow their spiritual or soul, in a sense, to just go off into everything.
Well, this is common among gurus in India that they're known to say, you know, on their deathbed, it's, you know, they have such a connection to their physical spirit that they know when it's time. And they say, my body's in the process of shutting down. I'm going to drop...
Dude, like Master Oogway.
I'm going to drop this body, but I'm not dying.
He just turned into like a bunch of like petals or something and just floated off into nothing.
Because we're creatures of pure light, pure energy. We can never die.
Pure energy.
And whether you're Christian, Muslim,
agnostic,
Buddhist, agnostic, it doesn't
Taoist,
matter. Like,
Hinduist.
We're all built of the same stuff, and it's not physicality. It's not carbon-based life. That's just this outer
It's just
shell.
a vessel. Yeah, I'm driving a Chrysler. You know what I mean?
Well, you're giving yourself a lot of credit there.
I mean, hey, Chrysler made some really good stuff, bro. Don't even, okay? They made leaps and bounds back in the
you're
day.
giving yourself a lot of credit.
I'm just saying, it's just a freaking... I could be a Pinto. I don't give a crap. The simple fact is this is just a physical vehicle that I'm driving.
Right.
I mean, I may not be doing a great job of it. I'm not sure yet, but I am driving.
Well, what's the marker for doing a good job? I mean, that's the thing. Like, life doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have a manual, a user's manual.
Well, because all right, so let's play, you know, devil's advocate in the sense that all right, maybe we do get to choose reincarnation wise as we come back as and all that kind of stuff. Maybe this is a literal training program. You know what I mean? Like this is we just keep stacking on more and more adversities we go through life because we're trying to, you know, life after life after life, literally learn better, be smarter on the other side. Because, I mean, while we may know everything, the human experience seems to be very isolated in the fact that it's not too many things seem to have this struggle, dichotomy-wise of being aware and like, trying to do this, that, whatever. But then at the same time, it's like, all right, that's too much. You have this super good or super bad, the whole, id, ego, super ego kind of a thing, where you're either being trying to really good or trying to be really bad, or find the balance in between. So, I mean, maybe it's, that like maybe the human experience is like the ultimate video game.
So all this on
a cosmic level, you know what I mean? Like
all this idea of being this super race that was created by mixing the genes between.
We're not a super race.
By mixing the genes of
we're super.
Some ancient ape with
right. They took a monkey and made him less hairy.
Mixed it with their own DNA kind of thing, like we're actually demigods.
Yeah, I think that was the Anunnaki story. It was like, they took
is that where that came from, the whole Herculean story or whatever, but that we're some kind of demigod and that we don't even know the kind of power that we have and blah, 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 but we're still focused on this physical vibration. Even after all these years, but every time we get closer and closer and closer, like this is what I say. Like, I don't think humanity moved in a straight line from ape man,
Cro-Magnon, the way they did the typical,
all the way up to whatever you call it, the modern age circuitry and
Homo erectus.
No, but I'm saying technology wise,
I thought we were still talking about humans.
Like, I don't think it's a straight line. I think we've
exponential.
I think we've peaked at points where we reached, and like we were saying before many times, is that when as humanity we peak at a point of like a spiritual high point. That we have advancements in technology. We're better at connecting with this other worldly intelligence. And I'm not saying alien intelligence. I'm just talking about the
other entity, or
that
like the literal, like the Akashic records kind of thing, like the literal flow of okay.
That non-corporeal plane that is basically just pure information.
All right, let me ask you this then. So I feel, and so my question to you would be, the idea of if we were to go off this Anunnaki, so this other non-terrestrial form from this planet, that's, non-terrestrial. They just weren't of this planet to begin with.
When they were a creation between their DNA and
so if you have them and they come here, so they are, say, a spiritual being in a sense. So they're very much more this energy that is able to take a physical form, or maybe it's not, and so they are able to find a way to interject their DNA in a sense, or, their construct into a earth form. To me, it brings about the dichotomy of being of the heavens. So, trying to be, godly, as they would say, or, that higher transcendence, very spiritual, yet at the same time embracing the fact that you are grounded or of this earth. So to me, the whole Anunnaki story kind of lends its hand to what might be the dichotomy of humanity in and of itself, where you're trying to be this spiritual, enlightened, transcendent being, but you're physically locked to this planet. It was it Final Fantasy, the movie, the animated movie, where all of those.
I never got the sense from looking into the stories behind the Anunnaki that they were all that enlightened. Because they still warred with each other, I believe.
Well, not even the sense of like enlightened, but more knowledgeable, more experienced, more aware of, so able to resonate on a higher dimensional plane than what our physical forms are allowed to do, because we're of this construct. That's why I'm like, it seems to me, it lends its hand to the idea of being a hybrid in that sense.
This suggestion kind of goes along with the idea that maybe the ancient carvings and Mesopotamian structures and stuff that depict these beings, holding the pine cone shaped, and the purse in the hand and all that.
Right.
With these wings, that maybe that is what's been passed down through all these years as you know, depictions of seeing angels or seeing gods or demigods, or, you know, it really makes you wonder. Yeah, but some of the ancient Greek and Roman stories, if they weren't true,
right,
and they were depictions of these otherworldly creatures that, and not only that, but the abominations of trying the first couple of times to mix these genes together, and what happens? You get a 3-headed dog, or you get Medusa, or you get, you know what I mean? Like just giant Cyclops
or Godzilla, or, you know, King Kong.
Godzilla. Yeah, don't forget that.
Yeah, right. Or the Kraken. You know what I mean? Who knows? Yeah.
And are these not all just like a rehash of the same idea? You know, if that maybe this isn't coming from some deep-seated knowledge within humanity that something like this actually did occur, and that's why we love watching it in film.
Well, so all right,
we love to recreate.
So from a psychological standpoint, we very much, being creatures of habits, as we are defined as what we are from our, you know, our parents, or our, you know, those who raise us, our parental units, whatever you want to call them, our elders and stuff, what they teach us, we kind of perpetuate that cycle because they taught us what they knew. And so, you know, in that psychological aspect, it's very much like is, you know, especially in like abnormal stuff where you find these weird outliers, as they would call them, like these super extremes where it's just like, okay, there's very much a, you know, nature nurture component where it's because of the environment that they are this way. So me, with that idea of us as a,
that there was like a genetically they,
well, so no. So on an evolutionary level, as you go generation to generation, you get this hand-me-down knowledge in a sense, right? So to me, the idea of how movie-wise, story-wise, like all the things that we really promote and put out there is very much about like these God stories, you know, being superheroes in a sense, as well as the fact that we perpetuate these wars, we perpetuate the cycle of enslavement. Because even though we don't have like slaves, and I'm doing like air quotes now, it's like we don't have slavery today, we still have things that are free labor.
There is still slavery in the world.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that there seems to be this continuous or perpetuated cycle, because maybe the stories that we're hearing of these were the creatures that came and did all, like, maybe that's why we're still doing all this again, because that's somehow ingrained in their DNA, which they put into us. So we're just perpetuating their system or cycle.
Well, and it was the end of these ages or these yugas or whatever it was, where there was a humanity kind of like hit a dead spot, whether it was a flood or whatever it was.
Yeah, cataclysmic events.
A cataclysmic event that basically brought you back to square one again. How many times has this happened throughout humans' history? And how many times have we come back and it, to all appearances, faster somehow?
Right.
Like there's no explanation for, you know, how all of a sudden then we're learning with leaps and bounds. Like we suddenly catch up to something that should have taken us, you know,
it would keep making
several million years to figure out.
You know, keep making exponential jumps in a sense.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like the jump in humanity I think I spoke about before, where when you draw the line between our ancient, whether you want to say ape or chimpanzee or whatever cousins, you know, where there was a point where I think, was it going into Cro-Magnon or right before Homo sapien, you know, that there was this,
I think Homo erectus,
where there was this huge jump in the size of the brain pan, like all of a sudden within like, I don't know, they said like a 10,000 year period, which is like a blink of an eye.
On a scale of evolution. Well, but that's under the Darwin, you know, idea of evolution, because he says, and I mean, it's basically his hypothesized theory, because he showed over so many different generations of what he could show, you know, evolution-wise of different species, is that it takes millions of years for these things to happen. Insects, animals, everything.
But I don't think Darwin took into account some of the concepts that we'd learned since then, like the fact that, you know, certain species of monkeys can be in separate continents, but when one group learns how to do something, that knowledge somehow gets passed. It gets transmitted to the rest. And how does that happen? Like that's where, like, how do you equate for the quantum? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's really what's happening. That's a quantum connection. That's an entanglement issue.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about as a species, this species of monkey has figured this out. You know, they've made a rudimentary tool to solve a problem and they've figured it out. And then they figure out, you know, by studying this, that another group of monkeys of the same species from another continent, then after that took less time to get to that conclusion, and so on and so forth. So it's like they were learning from a connection to each other within the Akashic records, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and there was...
That's really trippy.
I was watching a Joe Rogan episode from, God, I want to say... probably in the past 6 months or something, where they were talking about that, where once one individual, even if it's just a thought, putting that energy or vibe or that component out there, that it's now a part of like the Akashic records. And I think he even said that.
Where like you had that, like you just figured something out and then it disappears.
Because like
it disappears and it goes to somebody else and they actually physically solve it. That's what happens.
It was like our dude Evan was saying. It was just like there's no original idea. So once one thing has it, it just kind of, you know, bing, 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 you know, pops off like satellites in a sense.
And I thought that was what was really interesting about the fact that Tesla was basically he said he was trying to recreate when he created the tower. It was using the same technology.
It was under the principles or understanding of what he had derived at
mathematically, what he had derived from viewing how the pyramids are constructed and how they work.
Well, because that's why they said he did the same thing as put it on top of an aquifer. Just
but where did he do that though? Like he didn't do that by actually being in the pyramids. I don't think so. I think he did that through the Akashic records.
Yeah, I think
he just kind of jumped in outer space for a minute.
I don't think he'd ever been to the pyramids that I'm aware of.
I don't know.
That'd be interesting to find out.
But
if Tesla had ever actually been to the pyramids.
Hear that was my huge takeaway. To hear that was definitely his opinion, that what he was trying to recreate when he did the towers was what he believed was an energy collection device that was created thousands of years ago by not even. Well, there's speculation as to whether it was even the Egyptians or whether the technology was even before that, because
they just like showed up and shit was there.
We're talking about Mesopotamia and
Sumeria, all that stuff.
Sumer and stuff. Yeah.
So going back to what you were asking earlier, as far as the energy that was being pulled, it's the geothermal energy. Is that what you were referring to earlier?
In what?
And how much it... when you pull the energy from the earth and you store it, and it's able to produce a certain amount of electricity to cover a certain area.
Oh, so it says geothermal was one aspect of it, though. There was a lot more to it.
So geothermal is when you're using the temperature of the earth to operate stuff.
Right, but
whether that's the cooler heat or...
There was also...
just that one aspect covers 0.4 of like the U.S.'s utilities usage.
Yeah, no, I think. I mean, are we talking about like with the pyramid stuff? Because I think I was talking more about how like the passageways are more or less like a hydro pump, and it may have been done to either help produce energy or maybe keep the machine cool. Like it literally could have been a cooling agent. Who knows?
It said that it used it as they use the heat that then can be turned into energy. Through the water, so it became a generator. I mean, like those points became a generator.
The thing I wonder too is like, okay, so let's say, for example, let's say that the pyramids at Giza were all generators that were hooked into. I mean, what was the whole purpose of that? Was it anything spiritual, or was it just to keep the lights on at night? Or was it to run a machine that the pyramids actually represented as a whole that would basically, I don't know, was it meant to blast a signal out into space? Was it meant to, like,
I mean,
or was it just a generator? Like that's
maybe it was one of the power plants in a sense, or a collector.
It's not like we know. It's not like we have evidence that
we don't know shit there.
That Egyptians had lights and light switches and, you know.
What are you talking about? There's obviously bulbs with snakes that are filaments.
They had motor cars and light bulbs and radios.
And they had boats. And actually, they did have boats.
Well,
they started proving that now. Yeah, boats.
Yeah,
they started proving that there was not even just boats, but like seaworthy vessels that were like, you could do some shit and like
still impressive, but
cargo
not like,
and
it's still impressive, but not like, you know,
a navy.
They weren't building nuclear weapons or.
How do you know?
I don't.
So it says that the pyramids of Giza were built for religious purposes.
That's vague.
But
you will have a good day today. Oh, thank you, horoscope. That was great.
So, but when the eternal life, like they use that as like their thought of like the energy source, but it says where it was located, it was full of underground water channels, which were high volume flows of water that passed through, producing the electrical current of physioelectricity.
Piezoelectric energy, yeah.
Well, because there's something about the water at depths and it makes it more conductive as well. So I think the water was actually some sort of a conductive matter, not even just like storage capacity.
Yeah, that's what we were saying, that the water itself served multi-purposes.
Kind of like she was saying, it's like a battery and all that. And yeah, I think so. So I think we're all agreeing to the same thing.
That maybe it was used as a physical pump of some sort.
Generator.
Well, yeah, not even like generator, but also storage. I mean, like I feel like this would have been multifaceted, almost as if it, produced, harnessed, amplified, like everything.
Well, and there had to be some kind of involvement with some kind of, galactic connection, some kind of star and moon alignment, because there was between some of the angles that are coming in and out of these different shafts throughout the pyramid structures themselves seem to
the moon controls the tide and therefore like water levels.
They seem to line up with solstices and stuff. Yeah, we were talking about before that.
Yeah, I like what she said.
Is it possible that wasn't just like an internal switch, that when the moon is at a certain spot in the sky and it shines through this shaft, it heats up a certain element at the bottom and creates a whole new chain reaction that, is something that they need.
I think that's exactly what's happening, because it says that the channels go down, and because through the electromagnetic energy, and it creates a resonance with the heat that then
because of the shape of the shaft, and it's all very mathematically specific. It's extremely specific.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's wild shit.
Well, so I think
I've always been fascinated with the
biggest thing of all of that is the fact that our data suggests that our intelligence and literal tool usage does not correlate with the relative level of intelligence of output. So like the stuff that we have time wise with things that we had to make it, none of the shit adds up.
Yeah, like how did you get these perfect blocks? Not that they're all uniform, because they weren't.
Well, no, how do
you get them to fit so closely?
No, how do you how do you take spear chucking, arrow throwing, indigenous hunter gatherers and
that's the claim.
These massive galactic involved structures that are beyond precise?
And not even that, you're going beyond the age
we can't make today.
You're going beyond the age of the Egyptians. You're going back beyond that.
Oh, you're talking Incans, Sumerians. I mean, all of it.
That was the one argument, was that we've been told all this time that this era would have been like, cavemen. Like we think of Unga Bunga.
Cro-Magnon. Not even Homo erectus, but like literally Cro-Magnon. We're like,
they're not forming words. They're hardly touching phonics yet.
They're semi-hairless gorillas.
They're playing with 2 or 3 of the phonic notes. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
There's no economics. There's no structure. There's no law. There's no Man, you're surviving still.
But yet the reality is, when you go back that far, it's when did this actually happen? Because maybe this is the missing link that we've never been able to discover. Because there's always been this claim that ancient cavemen during this era were this way, but like we keep going back further and further, and there's clearly technology, not the same as we know it today, but there's an understanding of the earth and the tides and the stars and the alignments and
not even in like
whether there's a spiritual connection or not. Maybe that is the spiritual connection, the realization that you are a part of everything else.
Well, that's why I said the whole of the heavens and of the earth. That's why I'm like, you know what I mean? It really does help to.
I mean, who's to say knowing all this science and all this fringe science isn't your religion? This isn't. It's all connected, man.
It's all in your head.
You know, they didn't have the ability to create microchips, but it's not to say they didn't have technology.
Well, but that went back to that conversation we were having before, where those ground structures look like massive components that we would see today on our.
If you were to zoom into a circuit board,
they would be the different components that would be these maybe circuits.
Some of these things, maybe your friends or relatives might have them. You could see.
Hey. So think about this for a second. Really random, but with cavemen. So cavemen existed and they disappeared somewhere in between the years 2000 and 10,000 BC.
Now, what are we talking about caveman? Like, what's the scientific name we're using here?
Well, I mean,
is it Homo erectus? Oh, are we at that time? This is what always happens.
I know. I was gonna be like, make it quick, and then you started getting into it. I was just gonna be like, no, just let her do her thing. It's all good. And then you started. I was like, oh man,
yeah, it's over.
Okay, well, I'll end on a quick note. So, cavemen disappeared around 3,300 BC. The flood supposedly happened between 2,000 and 10,000 BC. So my thought was, I wonder if like all of cavemen was eradicated in this flood. And that's when you were talking about the mind being expanded and stuff. That's where I went.
Yeah.
To, like,
the only problem is too much evidence for pre-diluvian civilizations, but we'll have to pick that up next time we get together.
Yeah, I know. Cause I was just be like, all right, so in all honesty, damn it. We don't have enough time for that. We really don't. At least not on this episode. You know what I mean? But yeah,
but that's a good place to start next time if we want.
And I think because she's touching on what seems to have been the narrative we were fed as kids, but the evidence now no longer suggests, and it's like, holy crap, like what do we? But as usual.
And the deeper you dig, the further it goes.
Well, that's the problem with a rabbit hole. It's
we love you. It's been real.
This is I'm telling you.
You gotta go home, but you can't stay here.
That's right. Dude, you tell him we got to close up, and he's just like, "All right, see you guys later."
They're going to turn the lights out in a minute. We got to go.
Yeah, but this is I'm telling you. If you want to reach out to us, you can hit us up at ITY at directionsmusic.org. That's for any three of us. So yeah, Miss JD, Gemini, myself. Or,
individually at Philly D at directionsandmusic.org.
PHILLYD.
Or GEMINI at directionsandmusic.org.
Gemini. Yeah. And,
No, I'm glad you guys tuned in.
It's been a great episode, as always.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you. We thank you for coming out. And as always, we tell you, be good to yourself, be good to everyone else.
Much love.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.